Hi, everyone. We're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I am Dr. Kristen.
I'm Dr. Erin.
And we're back with episode 2 of season 4 of The Crown. This one's called the Balmoral Test, which really should be plural because there were, in fact,
two tests.
One was failed and one was passed. And then there was a stag of portentous symbolism. But mostly what we learned is that we continue our lesson in that Maggie Thatcher is not a feminist and that Diana is developmentally unprepared for what is happening. So let's get into it.
Those points stand from the previous review. Fair dues for Visit Scotland because they got a whole lot of beautiful shots. They must have paid personally for this episode. It made me miss Scotland and want to go back very, very soon.
Yeah, if you're asking, do the Highlands really look like that? The answer is yes.
Correct. That is what it looks like around Balmoral. Yes.
Yeah. They all do. The time. It's quite something.
It was. Yeah. I enjoyed the kind of low-key royals, and like low-key in a royal way, obviously not low-key in a me way where I'm like wearing sweatpants because they still got piped into dinner. But like,
which life goals?
Yeah, we added that to our life goals list.
I need to be piped into dinner. That's not because they pipe in the haggis at Burns night. I would like to be piped into dinner as the human me.
As the human, not the haggis.
Yeah, not the haggis. Yeah.
I forgot that they pipe in the haggis. That's funny. Yeah.
Sometimes I do actually know things about my Scottish heritage. Just sometimes.
Well, we did that Burns night.
That's Belfast. True, back in Belfast. But yeah, but like my aunt and uncle used to host a Burns night at their house and hire a piper. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
The things we learn. So sidetracked by the haggis, back to the Balmoral test. Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing about the whole Maggie Thatcher at Balmoral was I don't like her. And I did not appreciate that the show was maybe, I'm not saying it was maybe trying to get me to empathize with her. I understand like it was a culture clash and they showed that really well. I don't think like, she doesn't know things, right? She's like working class British.
There's an attitude that you go into new experiences with.
Yeah.
That Maggie does not possess because she always believes she is right. She is the reason why that failed, not the royals.
Yeah, well, I mean, Margaret was not nice to her when she was like, you never sit in that chair. That's like, how does she know what chairs she can and can't sit in? Like, but.
Sorry, at that point you went to Scotland and didn't bring outdoor shoes. Like, I was just so
that was, and then like you're going stalking with the Queen and you wear freaking like,
pumps,
pantsuit and pumps. No. Yeah, no. At that point, she had made choices.
Yeah, there are people you could ask on the Queen's staff of what the activities would be and figure that out. Like, she didn't want to.
She didn't want to fit in because she saw it as like an encumbrance, right? She saw it as an inconvenience. All she wanted to do was work. All she's ever wanted to do is work. And that is like, she believes her purpose in life, which fair dues, but also you're the prime minister and there's certain like traditions that you are supposed to uphold as the senior representative of Her Majesty's government.
We're getting ahead of ourselves because we could rant about Margaret Thatcher for a minimum of 8 hours. So really quick, the summary of the episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you did summarize it, but you can summarize it a little bit more. Go.
Okay. So I just want to because people asked us to be a little bit more explicit with the summaries. So we're being explicit. So what happens is the Queen's summer holidays in Balmoral. This happens every year, and the Highland Games are a part of it kind of every year, which is what that the towing and the shot putting and everything was. That's the Highland Games. But it is very traditional and exists to this day that the Prime Minister at least visits Balmoral at a time for an informal kind of bridge. And this started, I honestly think, with Victoria, who built the house. I think it's been around that long.
It would not surprise me. Certainly Churchill would have gone.
But I think also the guy who was there with, so Queen Victoria's son, Bertie, was a terrible king. And it's really when a lot of the parliament gained more and more power because he was a terrible king because he didn't want to be king.
Yes, correct.
And so it would definitely happen then because Bertie went up to Balmoral to see his mother's stuff, but he hated Scotland. So they just went up for like the traditional visit, whatever. So, and I could be wrong on all that. So our various, but don't worry, I am sure that if I am, somebody will tell me in the comments. So anyway, so they're up at Balmoral. Maggie decides to not engage in this activity whatsoever. She and Dennis very clearly make fun of it for a whole lot of reasons. I'll be completely honest. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance I want no part of, but this week at Balmoral seems the tits, so I would totally go.
They are having the crack.
Oh my gosh, I don't understand the dabbing game, but fine.
Me neither, and that would stress me out, but everything else looked like fun.
It's pretty well known even in America that the Queen drives herself around Balmoral, so I don't know how a British citizen didn't know that. So there's like choices of willful ignorance here that I think that's also what the show is demonstrating.
Yeah.
Is that, the Queen was opening up a thing to the extent the royal family is ever open. And so Maggie leaves in the middle because what she realizes is that her cabinet, what we see at the very beginning, sorry, I missed this, is her telling her cabinet what is going to happen. They tell her she's moving too fast. And she says, I know I am in a hurry. And they're saying, right, but you're going to break all the institutions and we can't do that. We have to like change them. And she pretty much says, I don't care. She goes up to Balmoral, which she thinks is useless. While she's in Balmoral, all of her cabinet ministers start talking smack about her in the press, which by the way is super British. Americans who are used to cabinet secretaries falling in line behind the president. That is not how things work in Britain.
Nope.
So she panics and goes back, and then she sacks her entire cabinet in what they call a cabinet reshuffle and brings in people that she perceives as not privileged. Because it's what Balmoral, the lesson Balmoral teaches her is that privileged people don't understand the value of work. And the conversation between her and Elizabeth on that is one of my favorite conversations of the entire episode. For me, it was up there with the Charles and Philip conversation last. Especially when we talk about women in power and how women interact with power. It was utterly fascinating. So let's put a pin in that and we'll get back to it. So that's the one Balmoral test. Mags failed. The second Balmoral test is on behalf of Diana Spencer. Charles is still dragging his feet and pretending like he has any choice in who he's going to marry. He's all whiny and on the phone with Camilla, who's like, my gosh, just ask her up there. Like you are essentially a selfish cow and you need somebody who will drop everything in her life and come attend to you. I think you have that in this girl. Prove my point. So he does that. He calls Diana. She drops everything. She comes up to see him. And she spends the episode winning over Charles's family. Which, for anyone who hasn't joined us for the last 3.5 seasons, that is the quickest way to make Charles resent you.
Yeah, he doesn't particularly like his family.
Oh, no.
Certainly doesn't like their interference.
Nope.
He hates the fact that none of them care what he thinks and feels about things.
Again, this televised version of Charles, we are not BFFs with the Prince of Wales. We don't. Televised version of Charles, yeah.
Yeah, and he sees himself very much as an object in their eyes. And so literally the worst thing Diana could have done was be a smashing success with everyone, but specifically his father when they go stalking, and she is responsible for helping them to find the injured stag. And like you can see it on Charles's face. And God love Josh O'Connor and all his acting skills. But you can see, like, as she walks back with Philip and the stag, he's just like,
I'm marrying this one and I hate it. Yep.
And like, well, at that point, he's still like on the fence. And then because of that successful stalking, then Philip pulls him aside in the meat locker or something. I forget what it was called, but like,
the stripping room or the prepping room or something where they
something where the animal carcass, who we both agreed is like symbolizes Charles, is like literally hanging there, and tells him like, marry her, you have to marry her, do it, this is it, she's the one.
What's so fascinating to me, again, like, and this is just editorializing, my empathy for Charles is so nil at this point because like I am not a royal, but I knew things that my family expected of me nigh on I was 9 maybe. So like, suck it up, big lad. Like this, I'm really sorry your life is going to be so challenging that you have to marry somebody you don't enjoy, but oh wait, you'll like, anyway.
Yeah, and it's like it is that intersection of privilege, right? Where he still feels entitled to something he, rightly or wrongly, however you view the royal family, something he knew he was never going to have.
Yep.
Like, he literally, since the moment of his birth, has been the heir to this monarchy. He has known that since his first conscious thought, I am sure. And he knows what's expected of him. And he knows who his parents are. At this point, he's like 30 years of age. We can talk about psychologically whether he's emotionally stunted from having like absent parents, whatever. He is 30 years of age. And like, it is what it is, buddy. Like,
and like Anne has copped on to her role in this a lot earlier. So like
Anne's the best.
Anne's the best. I love Anne. Anne's just like, Charles, why are we even having this conversation? Can we all just please move on?
I love that she calls him Eeyore. I hope that is historical fact because he is like,
my gosh, is he a moper? Oh, and I will say too, almost negative tolerance for elongated moping just as a human.
It's like his whole being.
And I can't with it. Like, I can't.
I love how Josh O'Connor like embodies the moping, and he's just like
literally how, and like Charles does hold himself like this.
Yeah,
but
and
like,
so I wonder if it's like literally the weight of his family's expectations that his
it's like making him a concave human. Like, but anyway, so back to a little bit more analysis really quickly. We will say before we say anything else, this is the kind of episode we love of The Crown. It made me want to keep watching. It was sumptuous and beautifully shot. Yeah. It had drama, but it also had breaths from the drama. This is what Peter Morgan does best. And like, buddy, stick to this lane.
Stick to your lane. Please leave. Please, for the sake of my heart and many others, just leave Northern Ireland out of it. Just tell the story you want to tell.
Like, that's fine. Just tell the story you want to tell. This is the one you want to tell.
Yeah.
I will even forgive you for it not being about Elizabeth because you clearly picked the crown you want to tell. Like, I'll stop even harping on that if you will keep telling this story. But I'm reading some previews of the episodes we have to go, and I think he's going to make me grumpy again, but that's okay. So,
bless. I really enjoyed Elizabeth in this episode.
I loved her conversations with Mags, like I said, and the way that she interacted with Mags and with the rest of the staff. And just also she was so like, we'll eat dinner. Okay. Like, you guys are doing, like,
she tried.
Okay, we'll adapt to our guests.
Yeah. And I love the conversation they had when Maggie goes to her the second time to say she's like reformed the government. Yeah. And Elizabeth like gives her a stern talking to on tradition. And what it means both to the royal family and it was super shady. And we were saying offline, we've had a subscriber comment asking us whether we prefer Claire Foy or Olivia Colman, and we will answer that in the comments. It's a complicated answer. But my challenge with Olivia Colman is like, she's at her best when she gets to be human and vulnerable and also sarcastic. Like, I love, she's got a razor sharp wit. She's also exceptionally good at being emotional acting, which you
again, if you haven't seen Broadchurch, it's on Netflix. Get thee there immediately. You can stop after season 1, by the way. You don't need to keep going. But season 1 is a masterclass.
Season 1 is a masterclass. I fared better with seasons 2 and 3 the second time around. We rewatched it over the summer. And it reminded me all the things I love about Olivia Colman, and she doesn't get to be that person as the queen. So I don't love her in that role as much as I loved Claire Foy in that role.
It's also been a narrative shift of the show. Like, once Charles shows on the scene, it's shifted a lot to Charles. The first 2 seasons were
about Elizabeth.
Entirely about Elizabeth, but more about Elizabeth.
More about Elizabeth, yeah. And so she has shifted towards the background a bit. But, spoiler alert, it's 2020. Girl's still the monarch. So they actually released
a photo. It was their 73rd wedding anniversary yesterday as we record this, Philip and the Queen. And they are alive and still monarchs.
They are. She is like encased in wax. She does not look as old as she is. Philip has
aged poorly.
Philip is a different story. But yeah, like she should not have shifted to the background as much as she appears to in this show. But yeah, this was some top notch acting all around from everyone. As ever, we would always like more Anne, please and thank you.
Could I just get like Anne doing a running commentary on everything else that's happening? Could I just get the director's cut of just Anne like telling me what she thinks about everything? Oh my gosh.
I know. And we should say, while we're mentioning actors and the characters that they play, Emma Corrin is acting the shit out of Diana.
Crushing it.
She is a revelation. She does the head tilt a little too much for me, but I know that was the thing that Diana did, certainly when she was that young as well. But she's bringing all she has to this, and like the way her and Josh O'Connor play off each other is gonna be really painful because we know it's coming, but like sumptuous to watch, I think, the rest of the season.
Yeah. For me, the summary of this episode was the tension that is held in British culture between conservation and progress, and which is summarized in the exchange that the Queen Mum and Mark Thatcher have, or no, Dennis Thatcher have, in which the Queen Mum is complaining that the Japanese businessman shot the stag.
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't even know why anyone would do that. And Dennis Thatcher goes, well, it's business. And the Queen Mum is like, but it's conservation.
Yeah.
And like, I am also of the royal family has taken, there's a lot of conversations about hunting in the royal family and a lot of opinions about hunting in the royal family. But so whether you agree with how they've executed it or not, they believe their purpose is things like culling a herd or things. They are really big on conservation and understanding that they are stewards. You may believe very strongly they are not stewards of the land upon which you exist, but that's how they view your land, that they are stewards of something. Whereas Maggie, with her unregulated capitalism, which is really what she brought in, largely buoyed by the Reagan administration in the United States when it finally happened, what she brought in was she wanted to get rid of as many of the social it's not constructs, the socially owned businesses in Britain as she could. And she wanted to bring in entrepreneurialism and unchecked capitalism. And that's what she did. And that is not about conservation.
No. That's
about blowing everything up and figuring out something else. And so this tension, Maggie Thatcher is an incredibly controversial prime minister. And when people say things like, well, she changed Britain, everybody's using her policies. Well, it's because she literally rewrote the British state and she rewrote the construct. So you can't, in 2020, be a prime minister based on what happened in the 60s, because she took the 80s.
Yeah.
She took the 80s and made England into Thatcherism with the cheering of a lot of people and against the will of a lot of other people. And we were in the UK when she died, and watching the public response to her death was fascinating and also not something we fully understood. And I think we've been trying to understand since. Because it's not our legacy.
Like our lessons on Thatcher are drinking out of a fire hydrant. We both watched a documentary yesterday just trying to understand her better, and then realized we need a separate documentary about the England in the 1980s. So if we gain any more insights, we will certainly share them with you as we go through this season.
For sure. But she was definitely known as anti-union. She was very anti-union. She was very anti-social services. And I think you can feel that already in her character. Sorry, I don't know why I've gone blurry. So apologies, viewers. But my camera is just having a bit of a fit. But that is not like the crown never changes.
Right.
So they may not have loved everything that Churchill did, but like they're not going to change to react to it.
Yeah.
And so any kind of dramatic change is going to set the crown on edge, which you will, spoiler alert, see when Diana begins to change some things about what the crown is. The crown does not believe in change. The crown believes in conservation. And it's not that the crown is conservative. I want you to understand a difference between those two things. Like, conservative views are keeping it the same as it is right now for the length of my lifetime or whatever. Conservation takes a much longer view.
Yeah, it's like over the course of history, the
Mhm.
thing that has, like, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but this is certainly the perspective of the crown. Over the course of history, the thing that has to stay the same is the crown.
Is the crown.
And we got that at the end of last season in the conversation with Elizabeth and Margaret, where Elizabeth said, like, what has happened under my reign? I think it was her Jubilee.
Yeah. It was the Jubilee
like,
conversation. They were in bed, right? Or something.
and she was like, the country is almost like it's on the brink of disaster. And Margaret said to her, like, we paper over the cracks.
That's our job.
That's our job. The country isn't in ruins if we don't say it's in ruins, because we are the thing that doesn't change.
Yeah, and that's what she says to Maggie too, which I really loved. Was like, it's been in a crisis. Well, the country has been in a crisis before, and it will be in a crisis again.
Yeah.
And you can still take a bank holiday. Like, pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes. Yeah. So I think, just as we are talking this through right now, and I appreciate you drawing out the stuff we already said offline, I think that's the crux of this season, is going to be between two people, three people really. And that's why, I wonder why Netflix put them on the poster, between the Queen, Thatcher, and Diana, and these two women for very different reasons that want to change things. And this one woman and all she represents that doesn't.
It's never changing.
Yeah. And so thus the tension of the 1980s within the relationship between the crown and the British government. Ladies and gentlemen, we can roll on with season 2, season 4. I don't even know.
Yeah, and if you're like a little, I don't know when the season ends. We don't know. Maybe you'll tell us. But my guess is that it's not with Diana's death. My guess is that doesn't happen at the end of season 4, or we would have heard about it.
I haven't looked at what the episodes are yet.
There is a movie starring Helen Mirren called The Queen that deals with how the Queen felt about Diana's death. So if you are curious, it's an incredible performance. It's a beautiful movie, and it's a fascinating companion to this show. So we encourage you to hop on in now. There was no Northern Ireland content in this episode, which we've already highlighted and we loved. But there's also no like real parallel Northern Ireland content. So we're not going to be back with our beep 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 special edition this week.
Yeah, I don't think so, because like the cabinet shuffle isn't really like a significant enough thing to
that affected Northern Ireland. We were in our own.
Or is it like, I appreciate this was what do you call this?
A bottle episode.
Bottle episode. So like.
And not even really, but it was close. Yeah. Closer
to a bottle episode than the last one.
Yeah.
So we'll see what episode 3 brings and whether we have any additional commentary on it. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on the Balmoral test. God, I love this episode. I really did.
I really, really did.
Yeah.
So from my blurry side of the state and Dr. Hinson's crystal clear one, I'm going to go fix my camera, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Take care.